Every day, more and more new details about the series The Squid Game appear on the internet. In this video, we will talk about the antagonist of the project and its main character, or rather we will analyze their tricks that help them stay alive during deadly tests. The host did not participate in the game Red Light, Green Light, as we saw him watching the game from his room. This was a smart move, as there were 455 other players in the game, and most of the people did not know each other, so no one would likely notice his absence. But I can assure you that the frontman did not want to participate in the games in the first place. I think the only reason he joined was to stop and thwart Ki Hoon's plan. Thanks to the help and strategy of the main character, the number of deaths has greatly decreased compared to the first season. The host knew that this had to be stopped as the game was becoming less spectacular for the VIP guests. In the finale of the first season, we see a fragment of a conversation where the host asks Il-nam why he risks his life by participating in games. Il-nam answers that playing games is much more fun than just watching them. However, I don't think the frontman's reason for participating in games was simply interest and a desire to have fun. If that were the case, he would have participated in the Red Light, Green Light game, like Il-nam did in the first season. Moving on to the second game, the frontman had once again ensured his safety. His team was luckily the last in line, although at the time of the discussion about who should play which game, their team was in the middle, so their going last was clearly part of the host's plan to survive this game. We see that when it was their turn to play, there was only one other team left. If the host team lost and the other team won, the soldiers would wait for the remaining team to leave the play area before eliminating his 4 teammates. Maybe he would have let Ki Hoon survive by taking him prisoner and forcing him to watch the remaining games. But that's another theory. Finally, we have the carousel game. I think it was much easier for the host to survive because of the chaos that ensued when the teams were being formed. When the participants started running, he could have easily separated from Ki Hoon and found an empty room where he could have successfully hidden and waited it out. We see that when the team was supposed to be 4 people, he sacrificed himself by telling the protagonist that he could team up with the other members. Ki Hoon and his friends immediately started running when they entered the room. The protagonist looked for the leader with his eyes, but he couldn't find him. It was obvious that he went alone to one of the rooms because he wouldn't be able to find a team for himself that quickly. A particular difficulty for him in this game was when he decided to save Ki Hoon's friend, Jong Bai. As soon as the required number of players was announced, he grabbed Jong Bai and began to run, eventually running into a room with another player. At that moment, he apparently realized that if time ran out, there would be no way to kill the other 2 players without putting his own life at risk. So he immediately eliminated the 3rd player, ensuring that only the 2 of them would remain in the room. In conclusion, he was not in any real danger under any circumstances. Even when he entered the room with that other player, the only reason he eliminated him was to gain Jong Bai's trust and keep him alive long enough to ultimately eliminate him in front of Ki Hoon, breaking his spirit. Another question is how he would have survived the massacre in the player's room. We see that soldiers were outside, waiting for confirmation to intervene and stop the players. If the frontman was attacked, they would not have waited so long. It would have required their immediate intervention to stop the attack on him. The camera has night vision and can detect the heat of the human body, which means that the staff in the control room were keeping a close eye on the frontman and anyone approaching him. Also, I don't think anyone would dare attack the frontman after he beat up Thanos. This highlights a key difference between Il-nam joining the games for fun and the host joining in to stop Ki Hoon. I believe Il-nam was in more danger during the mass brawl than the frontman, which is probably why he signaled the soldiers to intervene and stop the game. Now let's quickly look at how Il-nam also ensured his safety in the games. For example, in the game Red Light, Green Light, we see that the doll was programmed not to scan Il-nam, allowing him to stop and move even if he was a second late. In the Honeycomb game, Ki Hoon's team decided to split up. Sang-woo chose the triangle first because he knew what game they were going to play. Ali chose the circle because it reminded him of the moon in his hometown. Il-nam let Ki Hoon choose because he was confident that he could survive the game, even if he took the most difficult shape. However, in the end, it was Ki Hoon who chose the umbrella. Look at Sang-woo's reaction when he heard that. It's obvious that he knew what game was coming next. In the Honeycomb game, if Il-nam failed to complete the task, he could simply wait until time ran out. Then the soldiers would eliminate everyone in the room except him. Even if he made a mistake and broke a piece, the soldiers would turn a blind eye. He could simply hide the broken piece inside the box and no one would notice. During the mass brawl in Season 1, Il-nam was at his most vulnerable because he was an easy target due to his age. Therefore, the soldiers were watching the cameras closely, ready to intervene if anyone got too close to him. Il-nam was aware of the impending conflict and prepared for it in advance. When the lights went out, he immediately tried to climb to the maximum height to avoid the attack. It was for this reason that he decided to prevent the massacre in advance, fearing that the situation could get out of control and threaten his life. Now, the most difficult game for Il-nam is the tug of war. Many people think that he accepted the possibility of his death and played the game fairly. However, this is not true. We saw that all the players had a lock on their shackles except Il-nam. His shackles were not locked, and if his team lost, he could simply let go of the rope and step aside so as not to fall with the others. In addition, we see that even after winning, the rope was not cut immediately. This delay suggests that someone was controlling the moment when the rope would be cut. So this proves that Il-nam had a backup plan. If his team lost, he could simply let go of the rope, and the winning team would also fall down because the soldiers would not cut the rope in time. Since the platform was high above the playing field, the other players waiting for their turn would not be able to see what actually happened. If both teams fell, they would most likely think that it was either a tie or some kind of accident. It is unlikely that they would suspect that Il-nam survived. In the game with balls, Il-nam, as we know, also cheated. This game was his last regardless of the outcome. It so happened that Ki Hoon, showing compassion for the old man, decided to take him as a partner in the game. Initially, Il-nam easily beat Ki Hoon, guessing the number of balls in his hand time after time. However, he decided to give in to the main character. Many believe that Il-nam did this out of pity for Ki Hoon, and also the knowledge that nothing threatened him. However, this is not entirely true. The old man knew that the next game would be the glass bridge, and it would not be easy to ensure his safety there. Firstly, even if he knew in advance which slab was which, he could simply forget the order. Also, in this test, such an old man could easily stumble and fall from a great height. And let's not forget that the game involved aggressive players like Doksu, who could easily harm Il-nam. Well, now let's move on to the main character, player 456. Or rather, I would like to analyze how lucky he was throughout all the tests. In the first season, we will start with the very first game, red light, green light. Many believe that this test is the easiest to pass. However, given that the players do not know that they will be eliminated in case of loss, this game turns into a real mess due to panic among the participants. At first, Ki Hoon held firm, not giving in to the chaos caused by the soldiers shooting. However, it was clear that he was mentally struggling, and at some point, Song-woo helped him by telling him that he could hide behind other players, which would prevent the doll from counting his movement. And at the moment when he stumbled, as we know, Ali saved him. It is safe to say that in this round, the main character was saved by luck. In the next game, Sugar Honeycomb, Ki Hoon made the worst choice of all, choosing an umbrella. Most often, such a choice would sign a death sentence for the player. This time, Sang-woo decided not to help Ki Hoon, realizing that most likely player 456 would die in this game. However, this time, the protagonist was very lucky. At the moment when time was running out, a drop of sweat from his head fell on a cookie, as a result of which he realized that if he licked this cookie, he would be able to complete the game. The next round for the players was a tug of war. Yes, Ki Hoon was one of the strongest members of his team. However, it was not his efforts that were decisive in the victory. First, Il-nam came up with a plan that allowed the team to drag out time at the beginning of the fight and also somewhat exhausted the opponents. Secondly, when the team was already running out of strength, Song-woo again came up with a way to turn the tide of the fight and save the entire team, including Ki Hoon. In the next game with marbles, Ki Hoon was also supposed to die as he was losing to Il-nam completely. But again, luck was on his side. Il-nam was not going to pass this round, and he was going to drop out of this game in advance, as a result of which he gave in to Ki Hoon and let him win. Before the next game, the glass bridge, players were asked to choose numbers that would determine their order of going through the challenge. After that, Ki Hoon waited until the very end and was left with two choices: to go first or to go last. And just when he was about to choose number 1, Lady Luck pulled him out again. Going first on the glass bridge means your chances of survival are 1 in a million. And just like that, when he wanted to choose number 1, another player came up to him and begged him to give him the number. It was clear that Ki Hoon would not have survived this round if it weren't for an unfortunate set of circumstances. Of course, we must give credit to the main character because he pulled out the last round himself. In the Squid game, where you have to push and even fight a lot, you can't just get through on luck. And it was necessary to survive not only in the tests themselves, but also during the mass brawls in the players' room, where he bravely fought against Doksu's team. Do you think Ki Hoon would have won the Squid game if it weren't for luck? Leave your opinion in the comments. That's all from me. Thanks for watching, and see you in new videos.